Interview 616 AM. Partial log of interviewee. The subject was the only surviving passenger aboard the flight that brought SCP-616 to the Foundation's attention. Do you want some water before we continue? Or perhaps something to eat? I know you had a long day. I keep a few snacks here in my desk if you'd like something.
No, nothing.
Alright, go on then. What happened during takeoff?
Nothing at first. Everyone was excited, you know. Promised us we'd be able to witness. At last. And we believed him. Then stood up and we all started singing. And everyone was cheering with excitement when the door flung open. And then it started.
Go on, be specific.
The screaming started. It was just sort of normal at first. The oxygen mask dropped down as the air started rushing out, and everything started swaying. The lights went out just then, but it wasn't dark. There was light coming from outside, from the door.
I see. But I understand the flight took place at midnight.
No, it wasn't natural light. It was this haze of red mostly, colors, but they weren't colors. Everyone started screaming for real when a bunch of people started bleeding and going limp. But they started speaking, in unison. They were the chosen, but I wasn't amongst them. I don't know what they were saying, they were chanting it, but people were still screaming. I was screaming and was yelling something at the open door, and then George got up, walked up the door, and he jumped.
He jumped out of the airplane?
No, not out of the airplane. There wasn't an outside anymore. It was paradise. What had been talking about, just like he said. That's when the angel came. I couldn't see very well. I was in the far back, but suddenly lots of people got up, and the screaming mostly stopped as the chanting got louder and was still yelling something. And then more angels came. Angels everywhere, angels, and they raped and harvest, but the harvest kept speaking, kept chanting just like said. And there were hands, so many hands, pushing me towards the door, and an angel ripping, harvesting around me, and I wanted to get away. I ran towards the door, but...
Take it easy. What happened then?
I don't know. When I woke up, I was like this.
Subject motions towards legs. Both have been nearly severed at the knees. You don't remember anything else? We know why the door didn't close all the way. But do you remember, perhaps, how the plane managed to land safely? Or what became of...
He's in paradise with... I didn't see it when he went in, but everything was like he said. He was right. He was right about everything.
But about the plane... Nothing in our testing seems to indicate the plane is capable of landing on its own. Was a Boeing engineer, right? Would he have been capable of landing the aircraft?
He's capable of everything. He opened the door to paradise. He'll come back for me one day. I know he will. One day. When I'm worthy, he will.
Partial log of interview and subject was on board of the Foundation's 5th manned flight of SCP-616, and the first flight with no occurrence of... Very well, Father. Please continue. I hadn't so much as done an exorcism before, you know. I mean, I believed in evil, and I knew what must exist, but I never thought... What happened after the door opened? We kept praying. I had my eyes closed. I was terrified of being sucked out. I felt the fires, the heat and sulfur of hell. The heat was immediate, the smoke almost suffocating. Father clutched his chest and fell over, and I almost went down to see if he was okay, but I knew I had to keep praying. The plane started shaking, and I could barely stand up. We were all just standing there, praying so hard. What did you see inside the door? Nothing. It was just blackness. But there was this sort of light that spilled out, or maybe more like a glowing smoke. It's hard to describe. What happened then? Well, Father started speaking. That's really when I knew everything your people had told me was true. His dead body was possessed. It was speaking in tongues. We just kept standing there, praying we were right, that everything you told us was true, and that we could keep this door from closing. But it looked like the door was still closing slowly, and we didn't know how long we were supposed to last. That's when Bishop walked up the door and started pushing it back. It worked. We all joined him. Did that stop the door from closing further? Just a bit, yeah. But then it started closing again, and we kept pushing back and praying, but it was hard. I was afraid I was going to fall out. The plane was shaking so much, and the lights flickered, and Father was still there on the floor, looking up at us with cold eyes, chanting in some hellish tongue. I'm told the whole thing lasted 4 hours, but it felt like forever. I don't remember it much, except the falling. Near the end, it felt like the airplane was crashing. I thought we were all going down, that this was the end. It's like when you're going down in a really fast elevator, but worse. Everything was shaking, and I felt this abyss below me open up, and we were praying, and I was pushing against the door so hard my hands were bleeding. Then it all stopped. Just like that. Bishop fell out through the door then, out into the real sky. I think he must have been exhausted. A man his age. He saw the clouds and smiled and stopped holding on for a second and just fell. Nothing we could do. We heard the pilot telling us through the PA that we could close the door now and to take a seat and put on the oxygen masks until we landed.